Welcome to the Peep Show podcast.
News and stories from the sex industry.
With Jesse and PJ Sage. Welcome back to another episode of the Peep Show podcast. This week I have Mistress Blunt with me, and we're talking all about Mommy Domming. We talk about our Mommy Domme origins, caregiver archetypes, communicating boundaries within relationships, rationalizing desires, and so much more. Who misses free and affordable ads and social networks without the anti-sex work rhetoric? Assembly 4 is a team of sex workers and technologists in Melbourne, Australia, aiming to bring back free and fair advertising and social spaces to the sex working community. They also give back to organizations based in harm reduction, sex work, and education. Stepping away from the clunky design of traditional platforms, their two products, Tryst.link and Switter.at, are refreshing and well-needed changes in both presentation and mission. Both are free to join and open to all. In the words of an A4 user, from the policies to the language to the advice and tips, it makes such a big difference to feel encouraged and supported instead of policed. Check out their website, assembly4.com, for the word and not the number, for more info. Hello, welcome to episode 87. I'm here today with Mistress Blunt, who is back with us talking about Mommy Domming, which is actually one of my favorite things, so I'm super excited to talk to her. This is a pre-recorded interview that she did of me, but it's not really just an interview of me. It's us talking about our interest in Mommy Domming. So she put this up on her website, and we have decided to do a crossover where we're putting it also out as a podcast episode. So anyone who listens to the show should be familiar with Mistress Blunt. She's been on several times and we are friends. So I'm really excited to have her on the show again, talking about something a little bit more fun than the Earn It Act or access to therapy, which is what we've talked about before. So so that's happening. I have big news. I am really, really excited. I announced on Friday, so I guess just yesterday, that I just signed a book deal for my first book with West Virginia University Press. And the working title of the book is An Unexpected Place, Sex, Work, and Home. And it's like a collection of essays or, kind of a hybrid memoir, I would say, about my life in sex work and marriage and love and family and motherhood and life. So I'm really excited. It's due in December, so I have 9 months, which I think was apropos. I have 9 months to birth this book. So I'm really, really excited about it. And PJ finished his dissertation since the last time we did a episode. So he is now Dr. PJ. So there's been so much happening in our household. It's been wild. He's going to be back next week, which I'm really happy about because I have missed him on the show, and I think a lot of you have missed him as well. So he'll be back next week. He just needed to take a little breather after he finished his dissertation defense, and he needed to catch up on life. It was funny because we were joking, the morning after he finished, he was like, man, for the last 5 years, I've been saying, I'll do that when I finish my dissertation. I'll do that when I finish my PhD. And he's like, wow, now I finished. Now I have to think of all the things I'm supposed to be doing. So, new chapter. That's what's been going on here. We have some fun episodes coming up in the next month, and I'm looking forward to those. Before we get to the conversation with Mistress Blunt, I want to take a minute to thank our patrons, all of the patrons who've been supporting the show. But in particular, I want to give a shout out to the $50 a month patrons. So we have two of those. The first one is Aubrey Hayes and Liara Rue, who have been $50 a month supporters for a couple of months, and Frankie Rivers, who has been for, 6 months, a while. So we give special thanks to them, but thanks to everyone who supports us us. This is a DIY operation. PJ and I produce the podcast, host it, do everything on our own. We don't have anybody who does the editing. So it is a labor of love. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of equipment. It takes a lot of work. So anyone who appreciates the show and wants to pitch in a few dollars a month to help us out, that would be great. We very much appreciate it. I also wanted to say, because I haven't mentioned this in a while, if you go to the website that we've been running for the last 6 months or 7 months, I guess, which is peepshowmedia.com, you will find tons of articles written by us and also written by other sex workers there's porn reviews, there's news, there's essays, stories, all kinds of content. And we would love for you to go there and peruse that. Also, though, if you're a sex working writer, please feel free to pitch us your stories. We want to platform as many voices as we possibly can from all sectors of the industry. So if you go to the website, peepshowmedia.com, there is a section on how to pitch a story or an article. So please feel free to reach out and let us know if you have things that you want to contribute. We also have a small writers fund to pay sex working writers, so you wouldn't have to volunteer your time. We could pay you. Those are the main things. We've been pretty busy with that. Sorry I'm late with the episode. My computer is broken, and that happened last week, so I've been a little off my game, but I'm using PJs now, and I am getting this to you now, so it's better late than never. That's it for this week. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Blunt.
Hey, I'm Adrian, one of the hosts of After Adult Podcast. My porn name should be Mozart Fremont, but you probably know me better by my actual porn name, Siri.
I'm Rachel, but my porn name would be Woody 16th Avenue.
After Adult is a podcast about life and porn.
I don't actually watch porn.
I don't really watch that much porn either. I probably watch more than you, but I mean, most of the time it kind of would feel like going to work on my day off.
You 100% watch more than me, because I don't watch porn. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for After Adult.
Or visit afteradult.com and follow us on Instagram at afteradult.
My name is Danielle Blunt, and I am a pro-dom based out of New York City, and I'm here today with Jessie Sage. Hi, I would love if you could introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I am a phone sex operator and a writer and a content creator and a sex worker based in Pittsburgh.
Amazing. And we have something in common. Perhaps viewers can tell by our busty floral attire. But something that we both, or at least I definitely enjoy, is making Mommy Domme content and like the archetype of the Mommy Domme. And
I love that stuff.
And you were telling me something about a tweet that got retweeted right before we started recording. I'd love if you would share that.
Yeah, so it was so weird this morning. So the last article that I published, this is a weird coincidence that goes like full circle. The last article I published was in Hustler, and it was just on kinks in general. But I started it with a story of like mommy domming and like talking to my client about mommy domming, and that came out last week. And then this morning, out of nowhere, Zero Spaces, which is like Stoya's magazine, retweeted an article that I wrote years ago, maybe 2 years ago. And I kind of forgot that this scene even existed. The part that she quote retweeted is, and I'll quote, I say, baby, take your clothes off, pick your favorite belt, and present your bottom to mommy. She knows what you need. Then I begin to count. He whips himself for each time I tick off. So this was actually a scene from like the first person who was into like mommy domming with me. And he was very into spanking, but like belt whipping. And he called me every Friday after he got off of work.
Like a good boy.
Yeah. Every single Friday for a long time. He like got mad at me one time and then stopped talking to me. But like before he got
Little tend to do that. We can get there later.
Yeah. So I got in trouble, but before that, every Friday he would call, and he was really into belt whipping, and he wanted me to count off his like whippings, and I would listen to him while he did it, and he would go through the whole thing on his own. He whipped himself with his belt while I like counted off his how many times he was going to do it, and we did it every Friday for a long time. It was fun.
What a hot ritual.
I know. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very fun.
Yeah, I love the like consistency of it, and also like the archetypal like mommy punishment as well, like,
Mm-hmm.
included,
Mm-hmm.
and it is really interesting. I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, what is a mommy dom to you?
I don't even really know how to like answer this because it's not as if this is something that like I watched a lot of or like studied a lot of or anything. I just kind of I think I fell into doing mommy doming with some of my clients because maybe because I'm a mom and I'm in my 40s. Like I have big boobs and I don't know. I'm not exactly sure why, but I started to have a lot of clients who would fall into that and who would ask me if they could call me mommy. What it's looked like for me has been a couple of different things. So some actually a lot now that I think about it. What it's been like between me and my clients has been them calling me mommy, me telling them what it is that they're going to do. Sometimes that's punishment, like what I just talked about. Sometimes it's like very gentle and they want to do like breastfeeding sort of things, which I also think is very fun. Or they want to just have me like nurture them in some ways. Some of them have looked like, and this is kind of like a mixing of like categories, I guess, but I've also like included mommy doming in some like cuckold sort of
Yes. God.
fantasies.
Wow. Woo, you just made me blush.
And that's been very fun. I guess I don't have a definition. What I can say is that, like, for me, what it's looked like is me taking on the role of like a very like sexualized mom who takes charge of the situation. And that's either in the realm of like humiliation or in the realm of nurturing or in the realm of punishment. Like, it looks very different, like, depending on what they're looking for. And often those things are like combined as well. So, like, when we did it with like cuckolding, it was much more like, mommy's going to get something that she needs from like this man and you're going to sit here and watch because you're just a little boy, something like
So
that.
hot. I love that. I feel like the mommy dom gives you what you need, not what you want. I think
Mhm.
feels like part of it. And there's like often elements for me of like that like super nurturing aspect and like encouragement and like
Yeah.
being very sweet while also potentially being like very sadistic and cruel
Yeah.
in only the way a mother knows. Only
Yeah.
only a mother's love could do to
Yeah,
get
and
you
there's
that
something
deep.
to me, like, I was actually, like, having a conversation with one of my clients about this the other day because and I wrote this into my Hustler article, but he said to me, he was like, "I think that I like this because" we had just finished, like, a whole, thing, and he said, "I think I like this because I have mommy issues," and I was like, "Interesting," and then we talked about that for a little while, and then I was like, I think I like it because in our culture, like moms are so desexualized that there's something really erotic to me about like taking back like your own sexuality, but like in the role of a mom, which is like totally different than like MILF roles because that has very little to do with actual momming.
I'm so interested in like what is the like Venn diagram of MILF and mommydom. I've been exploring this on Reddit trying to
Have
see.
you?
It's like smaller than I thought. I mean,
Hmm.
the overlap is larger than I thought. But
Oh,
I
interesting. Yeah. Because I think I tend to think of MILF as like almost like just a category of like, this is a person that's older than a certain age. That's not even necessary or who appears to not be 18 years old. So if you're doing porn and you look a little bit older, you get put into like the mom category or the MILF category. Or if you have big boobs or if
yeah, I've
you're.
been like MILFed since I was like 18.
Yeah, but the mommy dom stuff is much more like actually embracing the role of mom, of
And
mommy.
and that archetype. What were you saying about the Hustler article? The second thing you were saying.
Oh, just that my client was like talking to me about the fact that like he feels like he has mommy issues and that's why it's like so attractive to him and why he feels like he needs that.
And on like the other side of that, something that I've maybe mentioned before is like what attracts me to mommy dom archetypes is
Mhm.
that I feel like women are so often put into the role of caretaker without their consent. So it's like
Yeah.
both the
Mhm.
empowering nature of like moms being desexualized and taking like some of that back and being
Mhm.
like hypersexual in this like persona in this space. And also like I am going to like only nurture you and care for you in a consensual and negotiated way that is boundaried and
Yeah.
not just
Mhm.
expected as of me as a woman.
I think about this in my own life. I think that, I'm the oldest of 4 kids. I feel like I've been like a mom since I was 10 years old, in the sense that like I've had those roles like thrust upon me in ways that like aren't consensual. Like I didn't actually want to raise kids when I was 10, which isn't like throwing any shade on like my own mom. I'm just saying like that often happens when you're like an oldest child, that suddenly you're like running a household and you're 11 years old, while your parents are like working or whatever. And I think especially as like a woman, like throughout my whole life, I feel like I've been kind of thrust into these roles of like taking care of everybody around me, like making sure that everybody is happy, even before like checking in with myself and thinking like, am I happy with the situation? Do like I want to do this? But you're right that there's something about like taking on the role of nurturing, but like being very in charge of it that
Yeah,
feels
and like
really good.
like I feel like what can be so cathartic about some scenes is that it has like a definite start and an end point.
Yeah.
And like being able to contain the role of caretaker and
Mhm.
step away from it is like something that like mothers don't get to do.
Right.
And also something that like a lot of women don't get to do, who are just kind of like thrust into those roles.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that there is something like both cathartic and like, oh, now I've taken care of you. Now you go do something else.
Yeah.
Go back to my life.
Yeah. So I'm interested in like how does someone find a mommy dom? Like I know people have like come to me since I was, it's just like a nurturing, I've had like a more nurturing dominant role since I was like first started doming, and I feel like people started coming to me for that. But like how have people found you for mommy dom things, or does it find you? How does someone find a mommy dom?
Do you know what's interesting about that is that like I'm actually not a dom, and I think that like the I think in general, like I'm not a dom in other ways, and I think that a lot of people would like come to me for doming, especially because I work on Night Flirt, and there's like a lot of subs on Night Flirt, and so I think that there was a lot of ways that I like wasn't comfortable with the role of dom, but when I found like mommy doming, it was a way that I could like tap into it and also really enjoy it. And I think maybe because like that sort of like nurturing thing comes more naturally to me.
It's so interesting. I was just talking to Aussie Rachel about the MILF role and
Mhm.
working online and having more and more people approach her for kink. And I
Yeah.
think that there's something about the mommy dom that's less intimidating as like the ice cold latex
Yeah.
mistress. Like you want the like hot mom next door to like show you how to like please a woman. It's
Yeah.
slightly less threatening than like the like ice queen who's gonna like tear you down in a second.
Yeah, yeah. I think that that's kind of what happened, is that I was having a lot of people come to me for things that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with, that I had to try to figure out like how to negotiate, and that became easier. Like the longer you're in sex work, the easier it is for you to like negotiate your own boundaries, right? But the really interesting thing I think is that once I realized that like the mommy doming is a way that I could get into the way that I could get into cuckolding, the way I could get into like humiliation, because I'm not a big humiliation like person, but in that realm, it's like not that hard for me to do
Yeah.
it. And so I think that like I had this very funny situation that I think kind of answers your question, which is that I don't think that I often like put out that that's what I'm doing, like in a very explicit like marketing way, but I think that I steer people in that direction. So an example of this is that like recently I have a client right now who's younger than me, I mean, I'm in my 40s, he's 27 or something. So it's like a pretty significant like age gap. And he had this like fantasy of like, oh, I'm gonna like be the baller with like the hot older woman who I'm gonna walk around and take to like a fancy dinner and buy the most like expensive champagne or whatever. So we were like getting into that sort of thing for a while. And then one day he wanted me to like pretend to pick somebody up at the bar and take him home with me and make him watch. And I just like fell into like the mommy thing. And I thought that's what he was like hinting at, because you know how some clients like will hint at things and they want you to like pick up what they're dropping, but they won't say it right outright. So like that's what I thought was going on. So I'm like, I'm just going to make this easy for him, and I'm going to tell him to call me mommy, and I'm going to spin this way. And it was really hot, and the whole like both of us were super into it. And then at the end, when it was all over, he was like, I've never thought about that in my life, but it was really hot. And I was like, what?
Like, mommy knows what you need.
Yeah. And I thought it was like
Tells you
him,
gently.
but it was me. I like created that.
But it sounds like a co-creation though, because I feel
Yeah.
like something that like you get better at over time as a sex worker and like constructing these fantasies is seeing what's behind it.
Yeah.
And, like, I've had so many experiences where like I know someone wants to tell me something and they just want me to read their mind.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's like little instances like that. Like to me, that doesn't sound like you projecting a mommy dom fantasy on someone else. It sounds like you being really fucking good at your job and being like, I think there's like one step further that like you're not quite, you haven't found language for.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it was funny because he was even trying to like construct it afterwards. And he was like, it made a lot of sense because like, why would I be there? But like, there's a reason why I can't actually be in the scene. And I was like, it's a fantasy. It doesn't have to make that much sense. But, so he's trying to figure out like, why is this a good framing for this fantasy? Oh, I got it. Like, this totally is coherent. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be coherent. It's a fantasy, but like, okay. Like, I
Mommy
could
Dom
just
is here to tell you that your fantasies don't have to be based in reality.
I could just tell you to sit in the corner and there doesn't have to be a reason. You just have to sit in the corner, but yeah, I think that there's a thing that's happening. And I think you're right that there's like a co-creation that happens in these spaces, right? In BDSM or in sex work or in any of these like, confined sort of moments where you create these scenes. And I think that, there's been, and I had somebody else who did that recently too, who said like, he actually sent me a really nice message that said, after we also did like a mommy dom thing where he said, that was the first time I've ever done that. And then he said, I don't really understand my desires, but like somehow they seem okay with you because I also pulled him down like a mommy thing. And he's like, that's the first time I've ever done that too. So I'm somehow like pushing this on people, but they like it
with me, which will maybe manifest more of that. But I think it's like both like people come to us for it, and also like I think both of us do have that like nurturing component where it's like you want to like push someone in a way to like watch them grow and like understand their desires.
Right.
Like
yeah.
I'm so many people's first mommy or mama, like so many. I'm currently trying to convince my girlfriend that she's little. It's not going great. She's gotten out ma, but won't probably. It's our edge play. But she does sleep with a baby blanket, but not. She told me I'm not a little.
Baby
I'm an Aries. I was like, okay.
An Aries? That's what she said?
Yeah.
What's the connection for her
the
between
baby
those
of the zodiac? Okay, I don't know enough. I only know about Leos and astrology.
I'm a Pisces. What are you? You're a Leo?
I'm a Leo, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I truly only know about Leos, which I've heard is the most Leo thing one can say.
Yeah, because aren't Leos supposed to be kind of self-centered?
And big hair, yeah. I think it's really interesting too about mommy dom. I feel like people carry a lot of shame because it is this like it's connected to a taboo or incest role play, which is not necessarily even needs to be related to. Like it's very like few percentage of like the mommy play and mommy dom stuff that I do is it all related to an incest role play.
Right.
And for me, because that's not my experience, it's it's the archetype of the nurturer.
Right. To me too. I don't even think of it as like incest play, like because I don't think of them as like my children. I think of it more as like a role or archetype. Like what sort of like dynamics do you want to explore and like eroticize? And that doesn't mean like that it's your own family members. It means that it's like a thing that you need that maybe you didn't get, or maybe you did get and you miss, or maybe like, I don't know. I don't even
need to play, to be little, to like be held, like a position that you can occupy where vulnerability feels okay to receive. And I think I've just noticed like a lot of shame and stigma also wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
When people can't see that it doesn't have to like, I personally do both kinds of role
Mhm.
play and like to have more conversations if there's like
Yeah.
an incest component in the role play, but like it just like I'm not thinking about my
Family
bio
members.
fam
Yeah.
in
Mm-mm.
any way when I'm doing mommy role play. It's very much about attunement for me. And I think maybe
Yeah.
it like leads into my next question of like, how do you be a good mommy dom? And the first thing that comes to my mind, and I think about this every time I talk about mommy play, is I also study psychology, and
Mm-hmm.
I went to this to Columbia's somatic psychotherapy conference and saw this video of mothers attuning with infants, and it was like
Mm.
super slowed down to like just their eye movement.
Oh, interesting.
From the eye movement, you could tell whether the baby was insecurely attached, securely attached, or had like a disorganized attachment. And
Yeah.
I thought that it was just like this like attunement and reciprocity in this
Mm-hmm.
exchange was so interesting. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like part of being a good mommy dom is being able to attune with your baby, with your submissive,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to like make space for like generative conflict when
Yeah.
that attunement isn't there. But I'm curious, like, so
Yeah.
attunement is such a big part of it for me. So I'm wondering, like, for you, like,
Yeah, I mean, I think that I hadn't really thought about it like that, but that's really interesting. And I think that is like kind of something that is maybe more like intuitive that maybe like I'm not consciously thinking about, but does seem to be part of it. I also really feel like security in my own body makes me a good mommy. No, I'm like, even in like remote sort of things, I feel that even in like over the phone or in camming or in phone sex or texting or whatever, any form, like being in tune with your own body and feeling comfortable, like using your body for comfort, and allowing for that and like allowing somebody to feel like, um, giving them like permission to feel that within like my body feels to me like very central in it.
it sounds so nurturing too. Like a mother
Yeah.
like feeds and nurtures and
Yeah.
attunes. And I feel like there's so many ways from like in sexuality and
Mhm.
intimacy and just like platonic relationships
Right.
that we don't have access to that type of touch or care or love
Right.
anymore.
Hmm.
And especially since so many people have so many fucked up relationships with their biofams,
Yeah.
that I think it becomes like an opportunity to either recreate experiences that were good,
Right.
um, create experiences that weren't there for you when you
Yeah.
were younger, and like literally like carve new neural pathways of like, oh,
Yeah.
this is what like that type of care feels like,
Right.
or to like play with some like more intense things and like shadow work within.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like in my own work that like I very much like use my body in order for that, for those sorts of interactions and new ways of interrelation. I haven't thought this through as much, but like I think about it and I think about one of the reasons that I really like mommy doming is that there are ways that like our own bodies to have like a body that's like open to the other to be able to like feed or nourish somebody, I think feels very good to me. It feels
Yeah.
I don't know, it just feels good
I
to me.
just finished the book Full Surrogacy Now, or Surrogacy Now, or something like
Okay.
that. Like a lot of it's about like abolishing the family and like
Mhm.
considering surrogacy workers laborers, and it has like a very
Mhm.
similar politic to like sex workers are workers. And
Yeah.
I think something that mommy play does as part, it's like totally fucks with the like nuclear family in a way that like creates
Yeah.
space for like queer love and healing
Right. Mhm.
in a really unique way.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you said this. I'm glad you also like brought up the like queering of these like boundaries because I didn't at all mean to suggest like when I was saying that I think that you need to be like a cis woman in order to play that role or
Right.
anything. Like I don't think that. And I think that it's like not about like your particular body but about like your relationship to it and like what you're allowing to like come out of it, you know,
Yeah.
how you're allowing it to be used and how you're allowing yourself to like reimagine these like relationships. And I think that there is like a queering of that I think is really, can be really powerful.
Totally. Yeah. One of my doctors, I say this very fondly because she's a close friend of mine, helped or like was one of the researchers behind helping one of the first trans women breastfeed her baby.
Oh, wow.
And so she knows a lot about like inducing lactation, and we were talking about it. And like one thing that I wanted to do as someone who like doesn't have biological children and like has never lactated before, I really wanted to start lactating for lactating fetishists. And I think breastfeeding, like I've done like breastfeeding scenes and breastfeeding fetishes, and I think it's so intimate and romantic and sexy, and like I fucking love it. And I wanted to, before the pandemic, I was planning for my birthday party to start lactating and breastfeed all of my guests.
Did it work? Well, the pandemic.
I did it. I totally foiled.
I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah. And so like that sort of also made me think of it's like it's not necessarily related to motherhood,
right?
Or like bio motherhood at all. And I think too, and like with like queering the family, like anyone can take on the role of a mommy dom. And it's interesting for me because I feel like I oscillate sometimes between mommy and daddy. And so sometimes it's like mommy and little boy, mommy and little girl, or dad, like DDGL type fantasies. Recently I've like been heavily on a mommy kick.
Yeah. So tell me like how that feels different to you.
Daddy feels a little bit sterner to me. It feels a little bit like more like I'm playing with my own gender too. So like times when I'm feeling more masculine, I like often like take on like a more daddy role. Yeah. And for me, when I'm feeling, I guess it's not even more feminine, just like more like nurturing, and like I want to like feed you with my body and like give you. I feel like mommy wants to give you what you need and not what you want, and daddy wants to take what's his.
Yeah. It's different. Yeah. It's a different like energy, I think.
It's a very different energy. And I actually recently shot a scene for kink.com, and it culminated in a mommy daddy little scene with Robin O'Hara and the Riley Ocean. And it was really fun to have like I was hardcore leather mommy and Riley was hardcore leather daddy. And that it just like felt like my perfect nuclear family.
Yeah.
Lots of fisting. So. My fisting dance, apparently.
Hello, this is Chelsea Poe from TroubledFilms.com. I'm here to tell you about getting access to hot BDSM, queer, trans, and dyke porn all in one place. With code PEEPSHOW21, you can get 21% off your next order from TroubledFilms.com. Again, that's code PEEPSHOW21, TroubledFilms.com.
Yeah, how did you get into it?
I think I was always there. I think when I was younger, some of it was like more babysitter. And like I've always also like I don't have kids, but I like have always babysat and like and have like very close relationships with my like younger family members, and where I do take on some of like a mothering role, and it's always felt really good and comfortable to me. I also think I was just like hyper aware of like the babysitting, like the dad's attention on me, and like the media around the dad's attention on the babysitter. Yeah. And I was always like, it was like very fun and cathartic for me in role play situations to like turn it around so the babysitter's in control. Yeah. In a lot of ways. But I think
when you were growing up, were you uncomfortable when like the dads would drive you home?
Oh my God. Yes, I actually have a stand-up bit about this, which I'll send to you.
It is this weird dynamic where you're like a teenage girl stuck in a car with like an adult man, and there is that weird.
My dad told me like all like horrible statistics. And I was like, sure that dad was going to do something terrible to me. But I actually, they were like 8 houses down, just like around the corner from me. And he would insist on walking me home every time. And I feel so weird about this in retrospect, because like he was just like trying to make sure I got home safe.
Yeah, right.
And like I was like, I will not let you anywhere near me. I know that like most molestations happen by someone you know. And so I would run home every time. I'd be
Oh
like,
my
thanks
gosh,
so
yeah.
much for those $7 an hour. I'm gonna go run. Bye. And I like would fucking book it home, and he would just like kind of chase me to see if I got home. And like I was trying to like open the door, and like one time I tripped over a root, and I was like, this is when it's gonna happen. I know it.
Yeah, I know. I think about that now, like as a parent who's hired babysitters. And for me, like if I was to tell PJ, I'm tired, can you go drive her home? Like in my mind, that makes sense, except that I used to be a teenage girl.
Yeah.
And that freaked me out. I'd be like, I'm in this car. I can't get out. Like, what if he like does something to me?
Yeah, it was very, so like the evil babysitter role felt very cathartic for me. And I think just like being someone who's always like gathered people and nurtured, like I love hosting, I love feeding people, that like feeding people with my body or like care was a very natural movement. And it like wasn't until more recently that I found language around Mommy Domme. It wasn't like what I was like, which is like a very hardcore kink for me now. And like, I love the littles in my life. And like, I think
I'm starting to realize it's a kink for me too, because I think that like when I first started doing it, it felt like I was doing it as part of my job. And there's a lot of things that I do in my job that I'm like, I don't mind it, but it's not like my thing. You know, I'm just doing it as like a service. And I realized like, dude, I'm into this. Every time I do this, I like am legitimately like getting off my own desire, and not because it's like a performance for someone else.
I feel very similarly. Like Mommy Domme is like one thing like I really love. Like when someone looks at me and calls me mommy, I'm just like, it melts a little bit.
I know. It makes me a little bit wet.
I don't want to. I have a few more questions about Mommy Domme, but I also want to make sure that we have time to chat about like what can go wrong in Mommy Domme situations. But I guess like what do you think it is that makes someone want a Mommy Domme, or like to look for a Mommy Domme?
You know, I've talked to some of my clients about this. What they've said, like one of them told me that he feels like he has mommy issues. And when I asked him what he meant by that, he said that he feels like he had like a strained relationship with his mom. So it was like somewhat like negative, but also he like caught himself like finding her very attractive and feeling like a lot of guilt around that. So like being able to like separate that out from like his own mother and like place those like feelings somewhere else, I think was like really good for him. I mean, that's just like one situation. I think for other people, like the idea of, but I mean, this is true in a lot of different forms of like submission. I feel like letting somebody else like take charge feels very good. I think that, but like I said, that could be a lot of different things. So why like mommy in particular, I feel like a lot of people who are into that, like want to feel cared for, not just being told what to do, but like feeling like the person who's telling them what to do also very much is like rooting for their well-being. Like mommies care about their kids' well-being, and even if they're mean and ground them or put them in a corner or do whatever. What? Yeah.
Grounding.
Yeah. I say it's like my real life children are grounded, but
it's effective sometimes.
Yeah.
Thing. I feel like, I've heard similar things. I feel like sometimes it's replacing something that wasn't there, working through something that was there and shouldn't have been, or just like creating space to feel cared for, in which we're so deprived in society. And what one thing I've been thinking of,
and I feel like a lot of times, let me just like interrupt with this too. I feel like I think maybe because I'm my age demographic, but maybe just because this is who a lot of sex work clients are, a lot of married men with like kids. And I feel like even if like they're for the most part like really happy with their relationship with their wife, like their wife gets like really caught up with like caretaking for the kids and they can't like be as demanding, like in that
Fair.
space, it takes their wives are already like trying to work and trying to take care of the kids and trying to do all this stuff. So I think too that there may be
Your wives don't want to mother their husband.
no. They're like busy trying to run the house, which I totally understand. I don't think that that's weird at all. And so I think that there may be a way of like, can I get that sort of care that like isn't like a reasonable demand on my like life partner?
I feel I'm like all about outsourcing everything, like everything you can. That's, I think that's a really interesting perspective too. And I feel like people are interested in like mommy dom, mommy role play for so many different reasons. And like, sometimes it's just because it's fucking hot.
Yeah.
Like we can talk about it for hours and like theorize and guess and like talk about our experiences. And sometimes like, it's just like, that's like what's stuck in my head.
Sometimes I think it just like hits some sort of like nerve in your, like in you that you're like, wow, now I'm charged for some reason. Like it's erotically
people are going to watch this and then develop a mommy fetish. I love installing both.
Maybe both.
I love instilling and installing mommy fetishes in people.
Apparently I've been busy doing that too, because I've had many people who are like, I didn't know that was a thing and that was really hot. And I'm like, good, okay.
Yeah.
Let's do this again.
Mommy knows best. Okay. A rapid fire question. What do you think about brats?
What do I think about brats? I kind of like people who are a little more compliant better.
I sometimes say that playing with brats is a hard limit.
Wow, you're very much like me. I was like, I don't know. I want to say that that's great, but I'm kind of like, just do what I said.
Yeah, I was like, why? My response to brats, because like I think of this in like with like dog training, like you're getting zero attention from me if you are misbehaving. Like if you're a brat, you're getting corner time. Like you like are going to be completely taken away from contact with mommy.
Yeah.
So
I love it when they're like,
just don't like me.
No, I love it when like they say things like, oh, whatever you want, mommy. Like, I want to please you. Like, I like the ones who want to please mommy. Like, if you want to please mommy, then I like it.
Mommy's desire is all that matters. Mommy's pleasure is all that matters. Whatever mommy wants, I want to give that to mommy. Thank you for letting me be such a good little one for mommy.
Yes, that's what I want. I want good little boys who want to be good for mommy.
Yes. Same. Okay, cool. I'm glad we're on this same page for that. I don't have as much time for brats or patience. Mommy's an impatient woman.
Mommy's a busy woman. Like, I don't have time to like break you all in. You have to just already want to serve me. This is how I think about it.
I feel the same. Do you see a connection between, or like, what is the connection that you see between mommy doms and ABDL, like adult baby diaper lovers?
I don't know. I've only had a couple of like clients who were interested in that. And honestly, like the ones that were less interested in like mommy doming and more just interested in like jerking off into their diaper.
Yeah. I've had some that are both, but I think it's like the diaper, I would say like ABDL feels more like a fetish and mommy dom feels more like an archetype or role, and some overlap, but it's very much like, it's like I'm jerking off into my diaper. How do I look in my diaper? Like, do you like my diaper? Is my diaper fluffy? And it's like much more, but it's
much more about the diaper than the relationship. And like, I like to do work that's more about the relationship. And I feel uncomfortable speaking on that only because, I haven't had so much experience with that, but in my experience that I have had, it's felt very different. It's felt like much more about the diaper and like jerking off into a diaper than it has about like having a mommy.
I think of it as like foot fetish too. Like, I think it can be both. Like I've seen people where it's just like hardcore foot fetish where like it could be any feet. And like, that's not my favorite. Like I love foot fetish sessions, but like I have a few foot fetishes who it's like, it's my feet.
Yeah.
That do it. And it's like my care with me. So like I've had some like ABDL session where it's like mommy is changing my diaper because mommy cares about me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel like like the
That's like more relational though than it is about the diaper itself.
Right.
So,
It has to,
yeah.
and so like I feel like in both the foot fetish and the diaper scenario, like the fetish can lead or lend itself to the relationship. And I like always need whatever like I always say, it's like whatever you're into, I'm going to use to like get into your head and get you to serve me.
Yeah.
So like your fetish is just a path for like me to control.
Yeah. I think there's something interesting about that, and about the fact that like in the kind of, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but in the mommy dom relationships that I've had that have been like successful, where we've both really enjoyed it, it's been much more about like the relational aspect of it, and like the caretaking, and the kind of like surrender to mommy's will, than about like the props or like yeah.
So, okay.
I mean, I wouldn't mind that stuff. It's not as if I have like a problem with diapers or with path of, like, that's fine, but that's like not.
But it's about you. It's about you.
Yeah.
You are mommy. Mommy gives the pacifier. There's really an extension, the surrogate.
Yeah.
With mommy stuff, I think so much about that research too, with where the monkey chose to latch on to the wire monkey, that the baby monkey chose to latch on to the wire monkey that than the one that was soft and cozy if it was being fed. And it was just like I think about that a lot. It's like, maybe I can also take on the archetype of the cruel wire shocking surrogate monkey. But so I guess my like one of my final questions about this is like, mommy dom relationships are so fulfilling to me, and they sound like very similar fulfilling to you. But I also have found that when mommy dom relationships go wrong, because it hits such a deep relational pattern, or like I feel like some people I've had experiences where people are like trying to work through their relational issues with their mother, especially if they're like anxiously attached or have like disorganized attachment, like oscillate between the two. And especially like people with histories of trauma,
right?
That it takes, and someone also once told me about like real kids, like it takes so little to traumatize a child. And I feel like when we're playing with little space, it's something I try and remember. And also try and remind them that like, I am not omnipresent mommy. Like I am there for you in that capacity outside of a scene. And like, I do my best to make sure you're like in a good space when we stop playing. But like, mommy has bad days. Mommy fucks up. Mommy makes mistakes. And I feel like there's not a lot of space in that because mommy's on a pedestal. So I guess my question is, where have you seen it go wrong? Like, what are some things you've learned about mommy domming?
So one of the like very early lessons that I learned was, and this was like a sex work lesson in general, but like I learned to not give people more than what they ask for. Because and that's something that I didn't necessarily anticipate, especially when I was like very new to this. And so for example, that scenario that I read at the very beginning with the person who called me every Friday and whipped himself, he also was somebody who bought a lot of my porn and would watch it. And then often like but like just vanilla porn, just regular like porn stuff. And then when we would hang up our calls, sometimes he would be like, okay, well, tonight I'm going to rewatch your videos and stuff. So we were kind of operating on like different levels where we did this like belt whipping mommy thing. And then we also did he watched a lot of my content. So one day I had this idea that like, well, why don't I just make him content that's exactly what his like kink is? Then he'll be like super into that. But that was a terrible idea because I made my partner like bend over so I could whip him, which is not necessarily his thing, but he's like so game. But I was like, you're going to like get naked and you're going to do this and I'm going to take your belt and I'm going to whip you and I'm going to like record it and my client's gonna love this because this is his thing. And he's like, okay, all right. So he like took a whipping for this like person. And then he was really mad because he was like, and now I understand why, but at the time I was like much newer and I didn't understand like the whole dynamic. And he was mad because he was like, but that was like our thing that we did.
Right.
And
That
how
was
can you,
supposed to be me.
how could you bring somebody else in? And I was like, you've watched me with this person in like a million different things. And he's like, no, but not in our thing, you know? And so he got like very jealous and very mad. And that was the end. Like we were done. And he even got mad and was like, why don't you lower the price for this and make a bunch of money on it? Cause we're like done. I feel kind of bad, like in retrospect, but like, I actually didn't know, like at the time, like I wouldn't have made the same decision now, but I like, you make mistakes along the way. Like you're trying to figure out like, how do you give people what they want? And they're telling you, I'm super into this thing. So I'm like, oh, well, it would be a fun surprise to give you exactly what you want. And he's like, no, but that,
like, yeah,
but he's like, but that wasn't what he wanted. Like, and I didn't understand that. And so like, one of the things I've learned is like, not to give people what they don't ask for, because you don't know what you're stepping into. You don't understand like how they're conceptualizing, like what your relationship is or anything. But that's true, I think, for a lot of different forms of sex work. But I think that like, these relationships, for all the reasons that you said, are kind of tenuous. You have to be like very careful with them because because I think they are often like kind of a deep, like very deep sort of like feelings that they have, or they associating them with like very early memories or very deep feelings. And so it's easy to step on that in a way that isn't good for them or good for you.
Like, I like to create, I think of like kind of it like of neuroplasticity and like the ability for BDSM to carve out like new neural pathways for you outside of like how things ended in the past. So like, cool, this mommy scene ends with you getting your needs met. And it's kind of, it's not like a straight arrow. It's kind of like a spiral of like slowly moving out of whatever patterns you're like really stuck in.
Right.
A lot of the work that I see. And sometimes during like a process of like that churning of like something comes up and like I miss something. And it's like, it's two of my like most favorite people in my like 12-year career have been someone I've done like mommy or daddy role play as like a significant part of the relationship. Also like have some like histories of like negative, like not getting their needs met as a child. And having like being adultified at a young age.
Yeah.
And it is those two relationships where I think both times I got sick and wasn't able to maintain that level of attunement, and it spiraled. And like I've had instances where just like, and like it's like gotten cruel, and like those have been the ones that have like truly escalated, where like not even like, it's not like abuse allegations or anything like that, but just like completely disregarding all of my boundaries, like and just like spinning out of control. Like I had one who was like, who like it felt like a vague threat, like this is my therapist like information in case I do anything. And I'm like,
wow,
I'm like I also make sure like that people are getting mental health care when they're doing super intense stuff. I think is really important. Like have that support, because like I'm not a therapist. I know a lot about therapy, but like I don't have the skills to navigate a therapeutic relationship.
And it's not like appropriate, like within the framework that you have with them. Yeah. And that's what I think. I've had this sort of experiences too, where like, instead of like, when you're in a sort of like transactional relationship with somebody and they decide it's not meeting their needs anymore, often they'll just like disappear, or they'll tell you like, I'm in a new relationship and this doesn't make sense, or I don't have any money, or like just really normal things. And you're just like, okay, cool. With these relationships, these are also the ones that people have like wanted big like breakup scenes, or
like potential explosive.
That it becomes like much more intense for them, where and I think
like it returns to that state of not getting what they wanted or needed as a child. And it felt like in both of those instances, it felt like a very, I don't mean this in like a judgmental way, but a very juvenile, like irrational response.
Yeah.
So what happened where logic was no longer working because
Right.
was triggered.
Yeah, because with somebody else, you could just say, I'm sick. I can't give you this attention right now. Like, I need to work on something else. I need to work on myself, or I need to get better into a headspace where I can do this again. And in your situations, like that just not being acceptable, that's not being something that they can like take in and actually really understand.
Right, because mommies don't get sick. Mommies are always there. They're ever present. And it's an issue when they're not. And I think something that like I've learned through doing Mommy Domme play throughout the years is like I'm still working on it, because it is like, one thing is like I really encourage everyone who's exploring intense DS things with me to have like a kink positive therapist, which we're going to talk about more on Friday, to have that support, to have external support. So like I'm not the only one who knows about this for them.
Yeah.
Community is like incredibly important.
Yeah.
Like make sure that like they have a space to check their experiences, so that like if something that I'm doing is wrong, like I'm not just like mommy's always right and that's taken as at like face value in like a larger scheme outside of like a scene.
Right.
Like mommy as the totalitarian ruler. I would like to like have people see me and like have intense, intimate relationships with me, be attached to community that like can help them communicate with me if like a need is missed or mismet. Sure. But I think like learning about generative conflict too has been really helpful for me. It's like, how can we use whatever's coming up now? Because I'm sure it's not just coming up with me. And I feel like those spaces of conflict where like I feel really emotional talking about it too, where like someone's need is not being met is either a point where you can like leave the relationship because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Or you can leave the relationship because you're unable to ask for your needs or like get them met, or like have a conversation that would lead to like the path of like generative conflict.
Yeah.
Of, like, my need wasn't met. I didn't feel seen. And like, this is what I need moving forward.
Yeah.
And I feel like being able to create space for some of those conversations to take place has been like really healing for me as well. To like not just have it end in an
I've also had situations that have like stuck with me where things have turned quickly in ways that made me very worried about their like well-being, because I'm thinking of one situation where one of my clients was like very into what we were doing, and then all of a sudden I asked a question like, what are you feeling, or how are you feeling about this? And then suddenly it pulled him out of that, and then made him very like self-conscious about it, about the whole like interaction. And then he was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm done. And then I realized like, and I had to like talk to him in a way that you're talking about and saying, listen, I'm really sorry. Like I did not mean to like step over your like boundary or pull you out of something that suddenly made it feel like you weren't safe in this like space anymore, because that I obviously want everyone who's playing with me in any capacity to feel like safe in that space. And, but it happened like so quickly, that I do think that it's important what you're saying, because you do need to, and it's, he's somebody who's still like a regular of mine, and it's like we have a good relationship, but there was like a moment when that happened where he was like suddenly very self-conscious about his own like desires, and especially like his desire for like humiliation, and suddenly was like, now I feel very
like you're hit with that self-reflection that you're not prepared for.
And then he's like, wait, now I'm embarrassed that I want to be so humiliated, so there must be something wrong with me, so I have to get out of here, and that's like not something that I ever want. So
I too hope that people like feel safe as they can when playing with me, but I really like hate the idea of safe spaces, because you just don't know what's going to trigger someone in that scenario. And
because like, it was all I said is like, how are you feeling? Like,
right. So, and that's like seemingly like healthy thing to do as part of a check-in. And I feel like when you like in these intersubjective, like two people having totally different experiences of something, like I cannot guarantee someone's safety.
Right.
I can like guarantee that I will do my best to work through conflict in as healthy a way as I am able to and have like the skills to and like constantly add to my tool belt. But like intimacy is not safe.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. Yeah.
Like intimacy is dangerous because there's the potential of it being like unrequited or like having a rupture. And I think just like the more I like play and the more I learn and the more I fuck up, I think about like how important it is to, I try and do this and I don't do it enough as I should, because I feel like you never know who's going to become a regular. But like, what do we do when conflict comes up before it picks up or before it's gotten there? And like really just like giving people positive reinforcements anytime they like bring something up has been like the two tools that like I've been trying to work better with. Just like, it's not like, what do we do if something goes wrong? Like something is going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Right? It might be really little. But like I've had people be triggered from like a way that I looked at them or like a subtle touch, and like no amount of negotiation would have figured that out. And especially like in a little headspace, I feel like it can be feel very dangerous very quickly in like a way that's really hard to navigate out of.
Yeah. Because those are like visceral like feelings that you can't just say like, oh, I didn't mean to make you feel that way. It's not like somebody can just pull themselves out of that like headspace.
It's like very real in the moment. Like that is their reality. Right. And like, that is the reality. It's like that's what it's gone to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this work is very intense. It's probably kind of why I like it. I mean, not because I want people to be triggered. Like that's not what I'm trying to say, but the fact that it's like so psychologically and so like emotionally fulfilling and like and change people's like lives and their relationships to themselves and to their own like history and their own sexuality, I think is really powerful.
Totally. Yeah, I completely agree. And maybe I'd say that sounds like a beautiful place to end to me, unless you have anything else you want to say. I guess I'll ask you, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at sapiotextual, and you can find me and all of my links on my website at jessiesage.com. And also I run Peep Show Media, which is at peepshowmedia.com, and the Peep Show podcast and all of the other contents on there.
Thank you so much. I love it. And you can find me at Mistress Blunt on Twitter and Instagram, and onlyfans.com/Mistress Blunt or stars.avn/Mistress Blunt. And on I Want Clips, I have a few Mommy Domme clips with some, I don't know if you want to do like a little, we can like share some of the mommy goods. Mommy for mommy is my like hands down. Amazing. Thank you so much.
It was really fun to talk to you about all of this.
Thank you for joining us for yet another episode of the Peep Show podcast. I'm PJ Sage, and you can find me on Twitter at PeachSage.
And I'm Jessie Sage, and you can find me on Twitter at sapiotextual or at jessiesage.com.
We would like to remind you that we have a Patreon account and would appreciate your support. Please visit patreon.com/peepshowpodcast. Our music is courtesy of Joe Kennedy. The show was produced by Jessie and PJ Sage.
Signing off. Have a great week.